We have to first describe these people as the most law-abiding people in the United States.
You've never broken a law in your life?
Never broken a law in my life. Never had a ticket, not even a parking ticket.
And you're going to go out here and break the law?
I'm going to jail.
I believe in what I'm doing, and if it takes every day till we get a contract, we'll be here.
This is determined, I think they're really determined to break the union.
You had this new leadership team come in. They were going to come to the coal fields and change the world, and that was part of our problem. They didn't understand the culture. They didn't understand our union. They didn't understand workers.
And they went around talking to our members saying, you don't want to strike, do you? And our members said, of course, no, I don't want to strike. But they didn't ask the second question, will you strike?
They never understood that people cared deeply about the United Mine Workers. They were coal miners whose dads have been union members and grandfathers have been union members, and they had fought all their lives for the health care, the pensions, and the standard of living they had. They weren't going to give that away just because somebody asked them to.
New people came in, and they were determined to get rid of the union. And that's whenever they started waking up and realizing that they weren't going to get a contract unless there was something done.
Well, after a period, I seen Pittston wasn't going to give us anything. And I knew at some point we was going to have to walk out.
They were constantly complaining about the cost of pension or health care, and they were just a lot of problems that they were generating with the people out at the mine.
And we knew our health care was in jeopardy, and that was the big thing, was our health care.
We were getting prepared. We were just getting ready for a strike. We didn't know how long, but we were getting ready.
When they started talking about the strike, he said, we'll be out for a whole year. And I said, surely not. He said, we will, and we were.
Thousands of Appalachian coal miners this week walked off their jobs. Wildcat strikes in support of 1,600 union miners who were locked in battle with the Pittston Coal Company.
Y'all under arrest.
So you're under arrest, you gonna get up?
Lay it out, Eddie, hold it. Just set him up. You get it in the back, I'll get him up.
I guess when the company calls in the state police and everything, you know, you get the feeling that they're not here to protect us, really. They're here to protect the corporation.
Within a 40-mile radius around here, you couldn't get a motel because they were all filled up with state police and security people, advanced security.
All we had to do was look the wrong way, and they would arrest us, take us to jail. Anything the company wanted, they were there to do.
Look, we got to fight a different way here. And we told them that, look, we cannot get out here throwing rocks and challenging police. I mean, you could get shot here by the police and they'd be right, you'd be wrong. You just can't do that anymore. So I was amazed that people said, well, if this is what the union wants me to do, I'll do it.
Our leadership was organized of what to do and when to do it, and we tried to follow those orders.
And I repeat, do not resist. This is civil disobedience. This is peaceful resistance.
We did what the union said. They would tell us be somewhere at a certain time, that they were going to do nonviolent stuff, sit in the road or whatever, and we would go.
Is it going to be violent, or is everything going to stay under control?
We'll stay under control, totally nonviolent.
The very first arrest that we had on the day that we decided to go with civil disobedience was right here.
I spent time here on the picket line here at McCoy. Just as the state police got ready to pick us up, Johnny said, let's link arms. That was a bad mistake. That turned it into resisting arrest, or so they claimed. So they really give us a pretty bad hassle that day.
They got all these great laws. Now they can figure out how to enforce them when they fill up all these jails around here. That's just about the way I've got this thing fixed.
They picked us up, took us over to Clintwood. We was upstairs in the courthouse. Somebody had found a piece of rope, and we started escaping out the window, coming down the outside. I walked over to the window and noticed that the rope locked about 12 or 14 foot going to the ground. I told my buddies, I believe I'll go on to jail. That's too far for me to draw.
There would be literally 300 to 500 men show up on an arrest charge. It got to be that the courts could not hear the cases because we insisted on each person having their hearing individually instead of as a group. And what this did was it shut the court system down.
Teenagers in high school said, I want to be part of this. So women played a huge role in this. Daughters of Mother Jones occupied Pittston headquarters in Lebanon. Every time the police would say, who are you? I'm Mother Jones number 1. I'm Mother Jones, daughter of Mother Jones number 2. It was an amazing thing to see.
I think Pittston underestimated the people in this area, along not only their employees, but the community leaders, the churches, and everybody else.
All the power that Pittston thought they had sort of evaporated when those communities and those church groups and civic groups and community groups and schools and students all came around to support us on the issue.
We had airline pilots, and we had all kinds of people, machinists, boiler makers, you know, and automobile workers, and different unions all over.
It was a source of strength when the auto workers came in, when the steel workers came in, when AFSCME came in, when Hotel came in. All of people, all the different unions came in. It was just like they're here to support us.
And the Paul Douglases of the world can never divide us. Our solidarity is much stronger than their greed.
A person volunteered and donated this property for our use. It used to be some kind of an old campground. And it had some old buildings there, older buildings. Strikers went out and renovated that and made it acceptable for people to park their campers and gave them a place to stay when they came there.
They opened Camp Solidarity, and they needed somebody there to help with the food, and that's where I went, and I stayed during the entire strike.
Everybody wanted to do their part. People would bring food. People would bring water. People would do what they needed to do.
We had people come from all over the world to help us, and if it hadn't been for that, everybody showing solidarity, we would never had a job left there.
Somebody said, Cecil Roberts is coming down here. I said, he is. I said, yeah, he's going to stay. I said, he is. Yeah, I said, well, right then to myself, I said, this is serious. We're going to win this thing now.
He's the next thing to Superman. He is one tough fella.
He didn't just walk in here and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. He worked with the people. He got out in the trenches with the people, and he didn't ask nobody to do anything that he didn't do himself.
Rich looked at me and said, do you want to go down there and run this thing? I said, yes. Best assignment I ever got in my life.
Cecil and I had gone back a lot of years, and we've been through a lot of fights together, a lot of struggles. We've been in a foxhole together, and I knew one thing. I knew that he wasn't going to cut and he wasn't going to run.
Someone came up with the strategy, well, let's occupy Mall Street. And whole Mall Street, which is a cleaning plant, can't process coal, can't sell coal, can't move coal without going through that cleaning.
We didn't know where it was going, so we couldn't tell our families. They assured us to tell them that they would be notified, or they would find out, I believe is the way they put it. You'll know soon where they're at.
They took us up there, and we went in, and we had to get the non-union workers out, and got those out and secured the place.
Union members say this means enough is enough. They've had it with courts clamping down on their strike tactics and no progress in contract talks.
We knew what time the police left and what time the replacements came. So we moved in with 99 strikers and one minister and occupied Mall Street and put 12 to 1,300 of our strikers out front.
Striking United Mine Workers who own stock in Pittston Coal Company continued the fourth day of their takeover of
of the Moss No. 3 preparation plant today.
You got the coal stopped, you got the scabs gone.
We brought a big crowd of people. We had thousands of people surrounding that press plant. And when those state police looked at that, they said, you're on your own. It's a private dispute. We're gonna make sure nothing happened, but we ain't marching through the middle of that.
And an order that basically said you had to be out of here by 7 o'clock. I think it's about 7:45 right now.
At the end of the day, we decided that we would end that night and declare victory.
We all had backpacks. We were instructed to throw the backpacks down on the bridge, and we did, and we just started blending in with the crowd, which was probably, at the time, 5,000 people. And Cecil's up on the stage, and he really got fired up. He said, you state troopers wanted them. They're here now. Come and get them. And how are you going to pick 99 out of 5,000?
And Elizabeth Dole comes down to the strike zone, the Secretary of Labor, Republican, and talks to strikers.
Labor Secretary Elizabeth Dole was visibly moved by stories she heard today from striking miners on the picket line at the Moss No. 3 prep plant. She also said she was frustrated by the situation.
We need to get this resolved, and this issue of retiree health benefits clearly is an issue that goes beyond Pittston, goes beyond the coal industry.
And then she leaves and appoints Bill Essery, who was a Republican, former Secretary of Labor, calls him a super mediator. He said, I want a contract before the holidays are over. And we was talking about Thanksgiving. That came and went. And then we were shooting for Christmas. That came and went. Then we approached New Year's Eve, and finally we reached an agreement. The next morning we go to the Secretary of Labor's offices, and there's a huge press conference. It gets covered worldwide.
And Pittston thought that they could beat the mine workers, but they found out different.
They told the scabs, the company did, that we would never be back, and as our people went back to work, the scabs was going down the road.
And I think history's pretty clear. The mine workers weren't too weak for that fight. They were clearly up to the task, and I don't think Pittston knew what they were getting themselves into.
One of the things I want to stress one more time, this was like a family community strike against Pittston as opposed to just the workers. I mean, when you've got kids in school striking and walking out of school, then you've got retirees, and then you've got women who are standing up and saying, we're going to do our part right here. And all of these people subjected themselves to arrest, not just the miners. What we were asking these people to do, they were doing it. Tell them to drive slow on the road. They did. Tell them to go to Mall Street. They did. Tell them to occupy Mall Street. They did. They were the best I've ever seen at having a strategy and implementing that strategy, following that strategy to win. At the end of the day, they did.